Hey everyone, Kid with the Antique Book Collective, and today I'm going to be answering a little question that I've heard a whole lot from all my different friends and all my followers, and that is, what kind of eBay store should I have? And I've seen a lot of advice on this all over the internet. Some people are like, hey, you should buy only this, you should buy only this, hey, you should buy everything under the sun, hey, you should just go to just say Goodwill bins, you should do all these different things. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to say, and I've mentioned sort of stuff like this in other videos, and that's that you guys should niche down as much as you can so you can become an expert in a specific topic in a specific niche of items. So the reason why I say this is, let's say that you guys are the kind of person that buys everything under the sun. So you might have some puzzles over there, you have some boxes over there, you guys buy and resell boxes. Oh, I sell some pens, I sell video games from the this and this and this, and I do this and this. If you're all over the board, you're just going to be putting prices on all these different things. You're not going to know for sure if these are the best items out there. You're not going to be certain if these video games, like I mentioned, you're not going to be sure if these might be knockoffs. They might be too scratched up to use. They might be this, they might be this. The game might not even be able to be played anymore for one reason or another, And let's say you don't know anything about games, but you sell games, so you might buy a whole bunch of, say, PS5 games. I don't even know if they have a PS5 yet, but shows what I know about them. But you might have a bunch of PS5 games, and if you don't know anything about games because you're just buying and selling everything that you can, you won't say that it's a PS5 game. You'll just say, oh, it's Battlefront or whatever, It's a pew-pew game, and this and this and this, and it says on the back that the main character's name is Ned. And you're going to put that in, and that's going to be all correct as far as you know. But the problem is you're not going to put in it's a PS5 game if you don't know anything about it. And people might be looking up just PS5 games. Further still is for clothing. A lot of people, if you haven't sold any clothing before, you might be being like, okay, so this right here, this is a Nike, and it might be Adidas, and you don't know because someone on one of the keywords of a listing that you looked up when you're looking it up put in Nike on it, so you're like, oh, it's a Nike shirt. But because you don't know anything, you put that in. And the reason why I gave you guys two rather extreme examples is because I think it really illustrates the point the best way that I can. And it's just showing that you guys really, if you are selling everything under the sun, you probably are missing out on a whole lot of stuff because you guys really need to know a lot about what you guys are selling. So that isn't to say that you guys can't do that and you can't do very well. There are a lot of people that do very well, and they do know enough about all the things that they sell that they can do very, very well in those things. They can make hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, all those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, they end up spending a whole lot more time sourcing these things and also listing these things because they have to look up every individual price for these items. They have to do this when they're listing and also buying. And in addition to that, they are spending all this time learning all these different niches, however you want to say it, but they're spending all this time learning all these different things all over the board. And let's just say stamps, like you do all the other things, and let's say stamps also. If you guys have never sold stamps before, but you want to get into it, you're going to have to spend 3 hours learning about stamps to know enough to be able to list the stamp itself, There's going to be a whole lot of stuff that you guys do, and you waste a lot of time doing all these things. And that's why I say, and a lot of people say, that you guys should niche down as far as you can, because when you niche down to just a few different niches, let's say if you're like me, I do antique books, I do normal books, I do vintage books, basically just books. Books are my niche. So I know a whole lot about books. I'm not an expert. I actually have done several videos. You guys can check them out down in the description, or I think right there's a little thing to hit subscribe. You guys should hit that little thing. But I do all these different videos. I've learned so much about books. I've been doing this for years, and there's still stuff I don't know. There's still mistakes I make. And I just do books. So just imagine if you guys sold everything, how many mistakes you'd make. But let's just zoom out again. So I do books. I do the vintage books, new ones, and antiques. So because I do that, that's sort of 3 separate niches. I know it's all books, but if you guys are book people, you understand that those are rather separate things. I think vintage and antique are rather similar and sort of stuff like that, but let's not get into the weeds too much. But with that said, I know a lot about these things, and because I know a lot about this, when I go in to buy books from different places, I immediately see, oh, this is from this publisher, and this one, and this one. Oh, this is this author. Oh, these books right here on this wall, these are all antique books. Oh, all the ones over there, those are comic books. Because I've done this so long, I know all these things just by looking at them. I can see the colors of these books. I can, off the colors, off of the binding, all these different things, I can see roughly what the age they are. And because I've done this so long, as I'm looking at all these things, I can be like, okay, that one's $40, that one's $50, that one right there, that one's worth $5,000. I'm getting that right now. I'm going to forget about every other book. I'm grabbing that book right now. And I go over and I grab these things and I do all these things. And because I've been doing this so long, I don't actually have to look things up when I'm buying them. I still do because I think it's good practice. And it's nice to just know for sure that I'm going to make a good amount of money. But when I go to these places, I know just looking at these things how much they're worth. And because of that, I don't need to look things up. But there are a lot of people who are buying whatever they can. So let me zoom back out to, remember when I mentioned going to Goodwill, the bins, and buying everything you see. So when you're going to these places, there are people who are looking up, what is this brand of jeans? Oh, is this brand of jeans important? Are these worth a lot? Oh, they're worth $30. I don't want those. Oh, these jeans are worth $200. I'll take these. And they spend a whole lot of time going through every individual thing. And then when they get home, I can just imagine that they're going through all these things once more because they don't remember it all or because of one thing or another. And they end up wasting a ton of time because they don't know their niche, all the ins and outs of it. They don't know, oh, Louis Vuitton and Gucci and all these other fancy names. I don't know. I don't actually know any of these things, but these are sort of things that they might not know if they aren't specifically just doing clothing or just specifically doing designer clothing, that sort of stuff. So it's something that you guys definitely want to play around with and figure out. Yes, if you guys are just starting out, you might want to try out every different niche that you can to see what works best for you, or just do the niches of things that you are actually interested in. So let's say you're a video game nerd, you might get everything for the PlayStations, like all the different years that they've done those, or you might get all the Nintendo games from all the different years, or all the games from the late 1900s, or from the 1950s to the 50s to the 1990s or something like that. I don't know when the first video game system is, though. I don't think it was 1950. Whoops. But you guys have essentially can just go through and find what you're best at. And when you guys have actually gone to different experts on all these different niches that you guys might be interested in, when you guys go to these people, I mean, you can see a visible excitement about these things when they look at these things. And like some of these people, like they can just pick up a book. I just did another video with this book, but they might pick up a book if they're like me and be like, oh, wow, this book, I could just feel from this cover. Yeah, it's not 500 years old, but just looking at it, it's like, oh, I know for a fact that it is from the early to mid 1900s. So actually in the video that I just did that I mentioned this one, I actually said I thought it was like the 1950s or 60s based on just the color of the green. This color green was sort of something that you saw a little bit earlier on, but definitely not past like the 1965s roughly. I mean, you stop seeing boring greens like this after that point. All the colors of books after that were getting a little more exciting because you got more pastel colors, because with the research done in oil, like refining oil, you were able to get a whole lot more colors. Up until then, it was a whole bunch of drab colors. So for me, I was able to look at that book and know roughly what the age was. And because I've been doing antique books for so long and just books in general so long, when I saw this book at a not a state sale, a book sale, Friends of the Library book sale, I went down to a town called Corvallis in Oregon. So when I looked at this one, I immediately knew I want to buy this book. I didn't even have to look it up because when I looked at it, I knew it was going to be valuable. So I saw it, saw that it was this particular color, saw the binding, so I knew it was at least let's say 50 years old, 60 years old. I knew it was at least that old. Ended up being from 1924, which made it even older than I thought. So that happens from time to time. So I saw all these things, but then I also saw the subject. The subject matter is gardening. Gardening is a really good subject when you get the antique books in gardening. So that's just stuff that I know off the cuff or whatever it is. I knew all these things because I'm into books. I've been doing the book business for so long. It's my niche. I know it. So all that is to say, though, is you guys can get that good about all the things that you guys end up selling. So for me, my dad used to be a printer, and he'd look at all these different reams of paper, and he's like, oh, those are this paper. This is this paper. This is this paper. Oh, that paper there, that's a really important paper. And he knew all these things about paper, and I'm just sitting here like, wow. I didn't know there was that much to this. And that's something you guys will definitely find if you niche down. You'll become an expert in this subject matter. And because you've become an expert, you know what to mention in the listings when you're selling it to your customers. So for me, picking up this book again, when I'm selling this book, I'm going to mention to my customers, hey, so this book is in very good condition. However, it does have some shelf wear. So shelf wear, you see it in the top corner right here. Some of the cloth covers, so this is cloth. They have a lot of different bindings. This is something that you'll learn if you do books like me. But the cloth, it is worn down so you can see the cardboard. So that's shelf wear on the corner. However, you also see some shelf wear on the spine right here. So you see that the little cloth cover right here, it's a little folded over, so the coloring is a little off. You also see, if I open it on up, hopefully that comes through, but you also see that the spine is a little faded. This is not, and all these things are just things that you know to mention if you guys are doing this, if this is your niche, if you really know this. Something else that I am sure is not going to go through on camera, but something else that you guys can see is there's a little bit of something called foxing on this cover. Sorry, not on the cover, on the text block. And foxing, it's I think a mold thing, and it is just little spots on this, and it's like a mildew sort of thing. It means that the book wasn't kept in perfectly dry condition. That's just something that happens with a lot of books. There's a lot of things that you guys can do to get rid of, can do to get rid of foxing. It's really easy. I'm actually going to do a video in the future on how to get rid of foxing on books. There's a lot of different things that you can do. So I'll be doing a video on that. But these are all things that I know about books because I've been doing books for so long. So it's something that you guys will also be able to do. And the reason why it's really nice to niche down is I can just look at the book, visually inspect it, and know all the things that I should say in the description. Whereas if you guys are brand new to it, you'll want to go onto all the different listings of all the different books and be like, okay, so what's this one thing about this book called? What's this called? What's this called? And that's if you want to be thorough. However, there are a lot of people who don't niche down, and I know this video is getting long, sorry, but there's a lot of people that don't niche down, and they just take photos of everything. They'll say what the title is, and they'll say see photos for further information, and that's all they put in the description. And when you do that, there are a lot of buyers that get scared off because a lot of buyers, especially for antique books like mine, they want to see more information on it. So because of that, the people who are just making a boatload of listings and not caring, they lose sales to people like me who actually try on my antique book listings. However, of course, there are also niches that people don't give a rip how much stuff you put in the description. So like, let's say you are buying a video game that I mentioned earlier. All you really want to know is that the game's disc is present, that the cover is, like the case is like there. Like, it's all that really matters when you're buying a game if you're buying it to just play it. Like, the disc has to be there, the case should be there, and the disc has to be like playable. Like, these are all the things you really care about when you're buying a game. Further than that is like a lot of people that are buying and selling these games, they'll actually have the game systems that these things run in, and they'll actually turn on the game to see if it works. And that's something else that they say in the description. And that's something that you guys can see when people actually know their thing, is they are saying a little bit more about it. And that's something that people actually look for when they're buying things. They want to find an expert in the subject, and people do pay more to have the expert in the subject because they know what they're getting is actually what they really want. So with all that said, I hope that really helped. I hope it really inspired you guys to maybe niche down a little bit. I'm not saying you have to, though, because there are a lot of people that are very successful without niching down, but it is something that you guys definitely should think about, play around with, stuff like that. So hope that helps. Be sure to subscribe, be sure to check out another video, and I'll see you guys then.